Will is one of the biggest boss hurdles in Maple that people typically get stuck on, at least in my experiences. Admittedly, myself included when I came back to the game a few years ago. 3 phases, all with different new mechanics and just a slight overload of information. Yeah, it'd probably drive most first-time players nuts, purely by design. Thankfully, nearly every aspect of all 3 parts of his fight can be untangled and explained very simply, and I'm here to help with exactly that. So let's make Will easy. One thing to explain before we get started and fight this big spider bully. The fight is broken down into 3 parts, as indicated by the cutscene transitions, every time you get his health bar down to 0. Each part has their own mechanics, tests, and different functions of a system called Moonlight, which builds up over time as you don't take damage from Will's attacks. You use Moonlight by clicking the Interact key, this one that you use to talk to NPCs and such. It can only be used when the skill key is lit up, and has a slight cooldown in between uses. If you get hit by these red balls that fly out in every part, you lose a little bit of Moonlight, and taking any damage from anything whatsoever prevents you from building up Moonlight for about a second or 2. I'll explain what Moonlight does in each part when we get to them, but do keep in mind if you enter Will on hard difficulty, Moonlight takes slightly more time to charge up. Now onto the actual boss fight. The first part of this fight is the most unique, in that Will has 2 extra colored health bars at the top of his main health bar. What's going on there? So there's 2 sides in this part, blue and purple. Each side has their very own Will to fight with their own health bar, attacking independently from each other. Your Moonlight in part 1 simply just swaps which side you're on and gives you a shield for about a second or 2, so you don't instantly take damage upon switching sides. If you have slight problems differentiating what color each side is, there's also cracks in the floor on the purple side to help make remembering which side is which a little bit easier. Will's actual health bar at the top doesn't move whatsoever until you reach each threshold of health on both sides, which is split into thirds. On both sides, Will does the same attacks, and cycles said attacks around pretty evenly in chunks. This knockback attack also reverses you for a few seconds, 2 purely damage-dealing attacks, and this tall, skinny tornado. Getting hit by the tornado obliterates most of your health, but isn't technically a one-shot instant kill attack. You can get past it pretty easily by standing behind him, or using an iframe, a well-timed teleport, or jumping over it if your character can reach that high and time it right. Really, all of his attacks can be avoided by just standing behind him. He'll also teleport on top of people every few seconds, so make sure not to stand on the outer edges of the screen and have him potentially toss out a tornado across the whole screen. We call that bowling in these here parts. Anyways, he can also swap what side you're fighting him on, usually at least once before every test, which is indicated by this pop-up text in the middle of the screen. More on that in a second. The only other attacks to watch out for here are these purple balls that fly towards you and deal a little bit of damage on impact, these spider legs that come out at random locations, and these occasional red balls that fly out of the eyes that appear on the left and right sides of the arena every few seconds. Getting hit by these reduce your overall Moonlight by a teensy little bit per red ball that hits you, and as stated earlier, getting hit by any attacks prevent you from building up any Moonlight temporarily. Once both sides of Will reach the threshold, it's time for the test. It starts off by saying Will is trying to unlock his power. When you reach the threshold and it says that, swap to the side that has the big red eye in the middle. If you've done the Esfera questline, it's the same kind of eye that appears when you cast True Arachnid Reflection. So if the message appears and you don't immediately see it in the middle, use your Moonlight, which should swap you to the correct side. Also, make sure you have some Moonlight to use for swapping sides. If you don't get to the right side in time, you simply die and the whole party fails the test. The test still plays out in full if you do fail it, and his health on both sides resets back to about the halfway point of the thresholds after a failed test. Anyways, this first test phase splits your party onto 2 sides. Attacking on one side sends these balls falling down on the screen of the players on the opposite side, and they have to catch only one singular golden ball during this phase. Once you do so, a golden shield appears in the middle for both sides. The other darker balls all just hurt you. If you're fighting Will solo, you're just able to damage Will and catch the gold balls all by yourself, all on the same side. Once the shield appears, get everyone in the party to stand in the middle and wait out the rest of the test phase. Make sure to turn off your summons here so they stop attacking Will. If you don't, after the test is over, you'll see a bunch of balls falling after the test that could potentially kill your party members. If anyone in the party dies before this test is completely over, even after the teleport at the end, you'll have failed it, and he gains half his health back on both sides. If done properly and nobody in the party dies during the entire testing phase, he gets stunned and you can attack him freely for 10 seconds. Repeat this 3 times in total, and part 1 is done. Oh, one more thing. If you're not able to deal enough damage in time, roughly about every minute per health threshold, he does the test phase eye thing, and you still have to rush to the correct side so you don't die. Whichever side has the most health is what he sets both his health bars to, so make sure you keep them fairly even. Part 2 is a weird filter to get past going in first time blind, so I'll start by mentioning the Moonlight function. It lets you heal. It doesn't inherently heal you, but it temporarily lets you use potions and skills to heal up. This is because you can't normally heal in Part 2 whatsoever without Moonlight, whether it be through potions or health restoring skills. Familiars with continually restores HP lines can heal you in Part 2 though, so if you have any of those, toss them on to get some health back throughout this part. With that out of the way, attacks time. Part 2 brings back the spider legs, purple balls, and the red balls flying out of the eyes that reduce your Moonlight. The health bar looks a little bit more normal now too. You're able to deal damage straight to Will's health at least, but he still has a threshold right around half his HP. I'll touch back on that shortly. First, Will's attacks. If you're looking at Will to see how he's going to attack, you're in for a bad time because he's lying to you. His human, non-reflection form does occasional fake outs where he faces the other way and attacks backwards in the mirror. Watch his reflection in the floor to see what he's really going to toss out at you. He sometimes does a dash that hurts you, a couple basic attacks that just hurt you as expected, just like part 1, as well as that one knockback skill that also reverses you for a few seconds. For other attacks, Will also occasionally sends Aranea marching towards you, which you can jump up over to avoid being hit by, or just teleport past them if you can, and he also summons these annoying purple webs on both ends of the arena. These I think always one-shot you, and if not, they get pretty darn close to it. Don't stand on them, and try not to get knocked back by Will in such a manner that you land on top of the webs. If you're on the opposite side of them and need to get back to the battle, don't flash jump, or jump over them normally. You will get hurt. You can either teleport over them, or just use any type of dark sight that stealths you to get past them. Iframes also work too, of course. Just use anything you can, and if you can't, just be patient and wait it out. The webs don't last too long. Once you reach that threshold at 50% HP, it's time for Part 2's test portion of the fight. He doesn't force a test earlier than that. It only happens once he reaches 50% and near 0% HP on his health bar, as indicated by these threshold lines. You know those spider legs that attack occasionally? Those are now the main focus of this test. The arena will clear, Will stops attacking, and the legs will come out. Pay attention to the ground here. If you see these cracks in it, you have to stand right where the legs attack, and if there are no cracks, avoid being hit by the legs at all costs. The legs come out in sets of 3, and he casts these sets of legs a total of 5 times. Let's start by explaining the tougher of the two, the cracked mirror. There's a set predictable pattern for where to stand during this part. Specifically these 3 locations from the far left wall, going in order from left to right in terms of where they appear every single time. The first appears between the pillar and this crystal structure thing, the second appears around the other crystal structure to the right of the pillar, and the third is slightly to the right of that, roughly around here. Keep in mind they don't appear in the exact same spots every single time down to the pixel. They fluctuate slightly to the left or right, but remembering these spots helps out tons. The hitboxes for the legs is pretty forgiving, and depending on your latency/internet connection, the game is pretty lenient in letting you adjust your positioning as the legs rain down. Back to the test. If there's no cracks in the ground, you have to avoid those spider legs, and there's 2 ways to do this. The first, absolute easiest way, is to just sit on the far left side of the arena. The legs will never reach over there whatsoever, just so long as you're as far left as you can be. Walk into that wall to be safe. While you're over here, if you're sitting in the corner and low on health, this is a great time to pop Moonlight and heal up. It charges during the test. The second way is a bit more in-depth and requires you to know something. The spider legs, in all parts of Will, won't appear in the same location twice in a row per set of legs. Outside of Part 2's test, the sets of legs fluctuate a bit, I think between 3 or 5 casts. More importantly, the legs in Part 2's test come out in sets of 3. That means wherever they were first cast, avoid that location. Then, you can stand in that location after they go away, and rinse and repeat one more time for the next location. Just so long as the floor doesn't have a crack in it. I only bring this up because there may be times when you're not hugging the far left, so knowing this is just better overall. Will does this test of cracked mirror versus no cracked mirror 5 times in a row, and once done correctly, he gets stunned for 10 seconds. If you fail the test, he doesn't gain back half his threshold's health, but instead about a third or so not too punishing. Do this twice, and part 2 is done. I suggest not using any mobility skills whatsoever during the test, as walking is much more precise for hitting the leg's locations over teleporting or flash jumping, etc. If you can, disabling any skills that you tap a direction twice to dash helps out loads too. I know I've died that way many times in the past. Final phase time. Part 3 is honestly incredibly terrifying at first, but knowing what to expect makes this fight way easier. First, the Moonlight in this part requires less charge to be used. You can use it at around 20%-ish intervals now. Doing so lets you remove these spider webs that appear on the edge of the screen, that throughout the boss fight slowly encroach upon the entire arena all the way to the center. Though you can only remove 2 spider webs per Moonlight use, so use them wisely. If you touch these webs without Moonlight, you get sealed, meaning you can't use skills for a second or two. Will also attacks with his world famous knockback that reverses for a few seconds, and the typical other 2 basic attacks that just deal damage. The purple and red balls, as well as the spider legs that rain down, also make their return in this part too. Nothing new there, they all function the same as usual. Periodically, Will also casts this green attack that puts a poison on one person. This person damages everyone that goes near their poison, and if the person with poison on them dies while they have it on them, the poison spreads to somebody else, and a poison field gets put in place for a few seconds that hurts anyone that touches it. Though it's also a good thing to have. See, it also gives whoever has it on them a final damage boost, so it's a little double-edged sword. Only if Will casts it on you though. The increased damage doesn't apply if you're standing in the stationary one on the ground. Will also has 2 new spider form attacks that you need to watch out for. Both also make him invincible when he's casting them, meaning you can't damage or bind him, so make sure to watch out for that. The first, easier attack is when he grows large, arches slightly backwards, and has yellow eyes, like this. Afterwards, he stomps down and attacks everything around where you're currently standing, so don't move too far from where you're currently at. The second one, again, is when he grows large, but this time stands taller, arching upwards and with white eyes, and again stomps down. When he does this attack, he spawns a spider leg on top of your location that will almost certainly one-shot you. It's not a one-shot, it's close to it, but anyways. Do everything you can to be moving fast to avoid this attack, like a flash jump or a rush-like skill, and you should be safe from that danger. Though if you're a mage whose only mobility is a teleport, be warned. This attack is one of your biggest cruxes throughout this entire phase. My advice is to wait for the moment he stomps the ground and then teleport. High latency can mess this up occasionally with the leg attack being delayed, but making sure you teleport after he stomps is vital to living through this phase. That makes mage classes slightly higher effort over everyone else in this phase, because everyone else just gets a fun little flash jump, dash, rush, any skill that constantly keeps moving them. No thresholds, just clear out the webs when you can, smack his health away, and you're done, you've cleared Will. Now here's some various tips. Resistance Link is not only great for its 8-second iframe, letting you safely deal damage for a bit, but also for building up Moonlight when you revive. As long as you're not taking damage, it's building up. It's great throughout this entire boss fight. Again, if you're in a party, turn off all your summons during Part 1's test. You're endangering your party if you're just letting your various summons or damage over times tick away and make the dark balls drop everywhere. Once the big golden bubble appears in the center, just right-click your summons in the buff bar if you have to, or don't use any summons at all throughout Part 1 if you can manage that. Do anything you can to get rid of them. Having trouble doing Part 2's test? Time a death right before he hits that health threshold, and wait out that death timer for the entire test. You can't fail it if you're not taking damage. You only fail it if somebody dies during it. In Part 3, if you're able to comfortably clear out the webs, standing a certain distance behind the ropes prevents him from spamming knockback on you, sending you flying into the webs and getting sealed and reversed and all that. You still have to watch out for them pesky webs returning and clear those out when they come back though, so be careful. You can't use True Arachnid Reflection, aka Will skill, at any point during this fight, which makes it entirely useless to have on while fighting Will. Swapping that node out for something else more useful like a Fatal Strike or maybe another skill or tri-node could give you a little bit more damage if you needed it. The fight is pretty much identical whether you want to go fight Will solo by yourself or with a party. The main key differences boils down to largely the tests being in the hands of the entire party, which is why people usually require you at the least know what to do during tests to gain entry to their runs. Also, not griefing part 3 with poison and sitting on top of everyone else. Lastly, familiars with lines like continually restores HP lines helps out a lot when you can't heal in part 2 and you desperately need to. All these lines are good, but optimally you'd want any that don't say by a small amount. They're fine to have if you don't have anything else though. Either aim for just restores HP or restores HP by a large amount. There are even ones that continuously restore health to your entire party, which are very nice too. Hopefully I was able to help you understand fighting Will a little bit better, and thanks for watching. This guide was kinda fun to do, mainly because I know this fight pretty well, having run it multiple times a week for a couple years. I think I covered everything in this fight I can think of. If you liked this video and or have ideas for more boss guides I should make, let me know down in the comments. Hey, even if you didn't like this video, I'd love to know why. I'm always up for improving in case I did something incorrectly or confusing. If you did like this, or you just want to see whatever new videos I release in the future, consider subscribing to the channel. I wish you all good luck with getting good drops like the Cursed Spellbook pocket item, ring boxes, a Twilight Mark, or maybe even some Arcane Umber boxes, or a Wilroyd or something, who knows. I'm gonna go work some more on my next class guide. That's all.